What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lexalexus. Today we are predicting week 15 for the championship, and this is the last game week before we have our November international break, and it will officially be the 33% stage of the season. We would be a third of the way through of the championship season, and we'll start seeing what sort of table is taking shape. And just as a quick shout out for me, I got not one prediction right, not even two predictions right. I got 5 exact correct scores for my midweek games. I don't know what possessed me that day because I was absolutely shattered during the recording, but I somehow got 5. I'm also pretty tired today, so maybe that's what I need to be to predict a little bit better. But having said that, now that I've tooted my own trumpet about how well I did in my predictions, it can only go one way, and that is downhill from there. In terms of a Leicester Football Prediction League, I'm pleased to say that I've got the prizes sorted for the 24-25 top 3 viewers, so hope you guys enjoy your prizes anytime soon. In terms of this year's prediction league, I've got a lot to catch up on in terms of calculating the scores, but my aim is to give you guys an update by the international break, so I'll make that as a priority in terms of getting that sorted during the break of content. In terms of the subscriber getting the shout out today, it is Tyler Colburn. Thank you so much for recently subscribing to the channel. If you do hit that subscribe button, not only does it help the channel, it also likely means that your name could be shouted out in a following video. If you can like the video as well, that really helps. If you can go for 50 likes, that'd be amazingly appreciated, as we're trying to get more interactions in these videos and to get us even closer to 4,000 subscribers. Sharing the video really helps as well, and also hyping the video too really helps too. But without any further ado, let's start predicting week 15 for the championship. We're going to start things off with tomorrow's game. It's Watford going up against Bristol City. Watford bang slap in the middle of the table at this moment, but I got to say the results that they've been getting in their last couple of games have been a little bit more of the encouraging side. I've already praised their brilliant performance over the weekend to get something against Middlesbrough, but then to follow that up, getting a draw against Ipswich, I know that they didn't hold a lot of the ball, and that, if anything, they barely attacked compared to what Ipswich were offering going forward. But what Watford were, they were very clinical when they were called upon it, and they caused Ipswich lots of problems down the wings, and that is certainly going to be one of their main strengths. Imran Louza again getting on the score sheet, just proving how much of a quality player he is to that Watford side. Bristol City going through a bit of a tough patch at the moment. It's back-to-back defeats for them. They obviously conceded 5 recently against Stoke. They lost 1-0 in midweek against Blackburn. They've been having a pretty tough time at home quite recently, actually. It's mainly been away from home where Bristol City have been picking up a couple more points. So it does incline me to maybe back them here, but as a prediction with how performances are going, I think Watford are going upwards in terms of their momentum, and Bristol City are just running out a bit of steam at the moment. I think they'd be really wanting the international break to come even sooner rather than later. But I think as of right now, I've got to back Watford. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Watford. I back them at the moment. I think their performances are getting better with Javi Gracia coming into the club, and I do think they will be able to carry that momentum forward and get 3 points here. Next up, we've got Blackburn versus Derby. This is going to be interesting, with John Eustace making yet another return to Blackburn Rovers. And in terms of in form, both are the informed teams in the championship. So Derby have recently won, I think it's 4 games in a row, which is absolutely amazing. And we were speaking a couple of weeks ago with Derby kind of meandering near the bottom part of the table, but when it's clicking, oh my gosh, Derby are looking unstoppable at the moment. They've now made it to the top half of the table for the first time this season. But then, the same could be said for Blackburn with their form. They were down there, looking like that they were cut adrift. In fact, they entered the bottom 3 for a couple of weeks. But now they've won 3 games in a row. They have got a bit of breathing space between them and the bottom 3. It's not quite out of sight just of yet, but a very good win for Derby and Blackburn in midweek. Derby picking up 3 points against high-flying Hull City at the moment. In fact, that game could have really gone either way. It was very, very close in terms of the stats, the XG offering, and the saves that both keepers had to make. But Derby just were a little bit more clinical on their day. Carlton Morris yet again being on the score sheet there. And then for Blackburn's point of view, brilliant win, as I mentioned, against Bristol City. I believe it was a Hashi who got on the score sheet this time around. I'm really pleased that he's now starting to step into his brilliant form for this season. Here, this is a tough one because, as I said, both are in really good form, so it's hard to back against either one of them. So as a prediction, maybe a bit cowardly of me, I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two sides. It'll cancel each other out. It'll stop their winning form, but it will stretch their unbeaten runs a little bit more going into the international break. Next up, we've got Hull versus Portsmouth. So I was speaking about high-flying Hull. They did lose in midweek. And in fact, it was their first defeat for, I think, the last 5 games, actually. So Hull have been doing quite well to stay unbeaten for an elongated period of this point of time. And it was a very close game, as I said. They did well, Hull, to equalise very early on in the second half. But unfortunately, the game slipped right through their fingertips right in the final 20 minutes of the game. And they just could not get enough clear-cut chances to take the game away from Derby. For Portsmouth's point of view, they'll be wondering how they did not beat Wrexham. They had so many chances in that game. I think they nearly had 10 more shots than Wrexham had. Their goalkeeper, Wrexham, made at least 5 main saves to keep the scoreline down. And as a result of it, Portsmouth are finding themselves in a difficult patch. They're in a winless run at the moment, and they're just above the bottom 3. And it's becoming a little bit desperate, not only to score more goals, they are the joint lowest goal scorers in the league, Portsmouth, so far, but just to get more points on the board. But against a high-flying Hull City at the moment, I do struggle to back against them at the moment. I know they lost in midweek, as I said, but I think back at home, I do fancy them for the 3 points here. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory to Hull City. Their brilliant form continues, and Portsmouth's goal drought and winless run woes continue, unfortunately, in my opinion. Next up, we have got Millwall versus Preston. My happy tables have turned for Millwall. 2 away games, and they've been so flawless away from home. They draw 2-2 to Oxford. I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. That could be just an odd result, and Oxford being quite spirited on their day. But to follow that up with a 4-0 defeat to Birmingham, they offered next to nothing in that game. It really surprised me. They, like Bristol City, I think really are desperate for the international break to come as soon as possible, because clearly things aren't quite right at the moment. They're running out of steam. They're not quite as intimidating as they were a couple of weeks ago. And because of that, Preston, their opponents, have overtaken them in the table. And Preston with a good result here. Maybe, I think it's if they don't lose, I think Preston will stay in the top 6 come the international break, which is amazing for Preston. I like to say they've won at least 2 games in a row. Paul Heckingbottom is certainly getting the best out of his Preston side. Now, actually, against Swansea, I think they've had less shots than Swansea. But despite that, they generated a higher XG, which is telling me that Preston are looking very efficient going forward. And what a goal, by the way, by Thierry Small for the first goal. Absolutely brilliant. And that's Smiach again getting Preston second, proving how important of a player he is. Could have scored a couple more as well in that game against Swansea. Prediction is tricky. I do have my doubts whether if any of them could get a win here. A draw really wouldn't surprise me. Preston on the road have been so touch and go. They've either been on it or they've been not on it recently. I just have a very sneaky feeling that Mill are going to be wanting to get a response. Their last two performances have nowhere near been good enough, and I think they want to give their fans some optimism going into an international break. I'm going to go based on home advantage, a Millwall 2-1 win. Doesn't make really sense with the logic based on how the form book goes, but we've seen it before that teams just go through really good streaks of form, and I think this is going to be another one where it switches slightly, and Millwall would just have just about enough to get 3 points here against a spirited Preston side. Next up, we've got Middlesbrough and Birmingham. Okay, this is tricky. I'm still a bit iffy in terms of what the score's going to be. So Birmingham were involved in a 4-0 victory against Mill, and that is back-to-back games where Birmingham scored 4 goals. Unbelievable. This is certainly the point of the season where you think, right, things have clicked now for Birmingham. They look brilliant. But those two were 2 home games. Away from home, it's not quite as smooth sailing as it has been at St Andrews. And I do think that poses a challenge here against a Middlesbrough side who are very strong at home. They really have been strong most of the time this season, but Middlesbrough struggling a little bit for form. Winless in their last 3, and as a result of that, they have lost their second place automatic promotion position to Stoke. So it's a huge opportunity for Middlesbrough to get something because Coventry and Stoke play against each other. So either one of these sides will be dropping points this weekend. Middlesbrough, if they're serious of getting promotion, got to capitalise on this and get 3 points. Will they? It's hard to say. I thought it was pretty heroic that they got the draw against Leicester, following the fact they were down to 10 men, but actually performance-wise, they deserved it. They battered Leicester in terms of the possession, and they found themselves behind for most of the game. Was it a handball? Was it a penalty? I say that decision, you know, I think it's just worth another video talking about that. But either way, Middlesbrough did fight tooth and nail and did get a 95th minute equaliser from Luke Ayling. What a celebration from him as well, by the way. Prediction is a tough one here because Birmingham could certainly offer something since they've improved so much recently. But I have a feeling with Middlesbrough back at home, I feel that they really got to take this game seriously with, as I mentioned, the opportunity of Coventry or Stoke or both dropping points this weekend. I'm going to go 2-1 Middlesbrough. I do think it'll be close, but I think they'll edge it at home, and that will make things quite interesting in terms of the top part of the championship. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, we've got Norwich and Leicester. 2 sides who are struggling for form, are winless for quite a while now. Norwich winless in 6 and Leicester winless in 4 to 5 games. It's not been a fun ride for either one of these sides recently. Norwich have stopped their losing streak by drawing against bottom of the table Sheffield Wednesday. That game as well I felt could have gone either way, and what I did spot in terms of the chances both sides were getting, both defences of Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich look so open, so vulnerable, that loads of chances just fell for both sides. And ultimately, I think Norwich could have won that game against Sheffield Wednesday had they been more clinical. I know Horvath made a really good save for Sheffield Wednesday right at the end, denying Norwich a late opportunity to snatch all 3 points. Leicester, they're involved in the draw against Middlesbrough, pretty devastatingly for them as well. A win would have been huge to try and get them to climb back up the table, but that late equaliser from Ayling and Middlesbrough really put things on a sour note for Leicester as they linger still around 14th place in the table. Both sides certainly underperforming their expectations. And as a prediction, I think I'm going to go for Leicester. I think I've seen enough from their previous game against Middlesbrough that even if they're not playing fully well, they've just got the players that can hurt them. And Norwich at home have been hopeless. They have been absolutely hopeless at Carrow Road. And I think if that animosity continues, I cannot see how Liam Manning is going to stay in a managerial role. There were already hints of players really disapproving him as a manager as a whole from clips I saw in their last game against Sheffield Wednesday. So something's not right, the mood's not right, there's definitely tensions there, and ultimately I don't know what's taken the Norwich ball so long. I have a feeling maybe in an international break they can make a change, but yeah, ultimately, I do question whether they've left this a little bit late. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Leicester. Again, I think it will be a bit nervy from both, bit tight, but I see Leicester edging things out here. Next up, we've got Sheffield United versus Queen's Park Rangers. So both sides with a defeat in midweek and both sides in the lower part of the table. Sheffield United is still in the bottom three. It's 3 defeats in a row. After back-to-back wins recently, I thought, okay, corner's been turned. Sheffield United are going to propel themselves back up to the table. But then that's followed with 3 consecutive losses. I really cannot wrap my head around Sheffield United this season. They're either on it or they're not. And right now, they are not on it at all. But I do see this game against Queen's Park Rangers as a bit of an opportunity to get something, because Queen's Park Rangers at the moment are not looking very confident. They really are not. And I do think their last away performance against Derby wasn't anywhere near good enough. And actually, of course, they lost 3 games in a row too, because they lost back-to-back home games as well, conceding 6 goals in those 2 games in the process. Prediction, honestly, both sides could offer some threats, both looking vulnerable at the moment though. I'm tempted to go for the Sheffield United win, but I predicted a load of 2-1s already, and I actually feel I've not done enough draws. Let's go for a 1-1 draw here. I do find it'll either be a home win or like a 1-goal win either way, or a draw. I just don't see one team demolishing the other, so very tight, and I'll end it as a draw. Let me know what you think though in the comments. Next up, we've got Southampton facing Sheffield Wednesday. Southampton managed to beat Queen's Park Rangers in midweek by 2-1, but the stats would tell you that Queen's Park Rangers were the side more likely getting something from this game. But Southampton, despite not holding a lot of chances in that game, when they were presented with chances, they were very clinical when taking them. They propelled themselves to a 2-goal lead, and I know they nearly surrendered it, so I still think mentally they're still a bit fragile. But that win for Southampton is huge, because they at one point looked like they were going to fall in the bottom 3 very soon. So that win at least gives them some breathing space. But I'm now questioning whether they can go and do like a Sheffield United, win a couple and then lose a couple, and then it goes into this never-ending cycle. It's tough to say. And Sheffield Wednesday still being very spirited. They got themselves a home point against Norwich, but maybe they would have felt a bit disappointed that they didn't get 3, because they did have some big chances, Sheffield Wednesday. What a fantastic goal as well from Barry Bannon as well. An absolute strike to give Sheffield Wednesday their only goal against Norwich there. I wonder if we could get another couple of wonder goals here. But as a prediction, out of the evidence that they're back at home and maybe with a new managerial bounce, I'm going to back Southampton actually, which I've not done a lot this season, but I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to Southampton. I think defensively Queen's Park Rangers look quite vulnerable, and I know attacking wise Southampton can be a hit if they just are more clinical when they get into the 6-yard box. So I have a feeling things will click for them, and I think they'll win relatively comfortably by 3-1. Next up is the big one, Stoke versus Coventry. I am so excited. Mark Robins hosts Coventry at his new club Stoke. And right now, Stoke were, I think, the major winners of the midweek, because not only are they now back in the top 2, but they won comfortably away from home against Oxford, where stats would tell you it should have been a very even game. But Stoke have just shown going forward they are so deadly. But Coventry, we saw the sign of champions, I think, for the first time this season from them. They had a tough day against Wrexham, 3 of the back 4 being either unavailable, injured, suspended, whatever. Lost that narrowly, and then backed themselves to get back to winning ways against Sheffield United after going behind. Brilliant mindset, brilliant mentality, and they are really showing me lots of evidence why they are the team to beat. They've actually got a 4-point gap from Stoke, but this is a big opportunity for Stoke. Win this, and they're 1 point behind Coventry by the international break, and they will snap your hands off to get that. But for Coventry's sake, win this game. They're 7 points clear of Stoke going into the international break. Oh my goodness, this is such a huge game. predictions, honestly, I think most are going to predict a draw or 1-goal win. And that's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking a draw. I really am not brave enough to back either one of them. I was very tempted to back Stoke to see how that will unfold in terms of the title race, but I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1. I back both teams to score, and I think that's what we'll get here. Gosh, that is such a tough game to call. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we've got Swansea versus Ipswich now. Okay, so Swansea lost out last time around against Preston. They were in the game for most of it, but quite disappointing in the way that they conceded the 2 goals. I mean, they couldn't really do much about Thierry Small's goal, to be fair. But it's been a tough run for Swansea. I think they've only won once in the last 5, and that was against a struggling Norwich City side. They've also got to face another team in around, well, not the exact same region, but nearby Norwich in Ipswich, where they themselves are going through a little bit of an unbeaten run now, but an opportunity missed. They were behind against Watford. Philogene did well to redeem himself because there was arguments he was fault for not tracking back, which led to Loser's first goal for Watford. But he does score the equaliser, to be fair, or helps it out for Ipswich to get that draw against Watford. And they would have been disappointed that they did not get all 3 points. Away from home, I'm a little bit nervous. But they did win their last and first away game, actually, against Queen's Park Rangers. And Swansea similarly in a position of struggle. But I do see some very dangerous quality players for Swansea that can hurt Ipswich. A draw wouldn't surprise me yet again in terms of my prediction. You know what? I've actually got to back Ipswich for once. And please, for the love of God, can Ipswich just win a game when I back them? I'm going to back them to win by 2-1. And if they fail to deliver, I am not backing Ipswich ever again, I think. So let's go for an away win. That'll be 2 away wins in a row. That sounds unheard of at the moment. But Swansea are not in the best of places. And I think Ipswich could capitalise on that. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments. Our penultimate game sees West Brom versus Oxford. West Brom got themselves in another losing position. A late goal against Charlton. It was devastating for them. It could have ended as a 0-0 draw. Would that have been the fairest result? Maybe, based on the stats overall. That was pretty tight for both of them. But Charlton just snatched it. What an unbelievable win that was for them. And I correctly predicted a 1-0 scoreline as well. I did imagine it would be very tetchy and low scoring. But they've got to back themselves here at West Brom. I don't think they've scored actually in their last 3 games. So they're going through a bit of a goal drought at the moment. They're facing an Oxford side where it was a bad day in the office against Stoke City. They actually offered to get something, but they were nowhere near enough clinical in that game, and because of that, they are perilously close to the bottom 3 at this stage of the season. I see this being low scoring yet again because both haven't been finding the ball in the back of the net that much, and I probably would back Oxford more for goals. But with them being away from home, not easy for them to get 3 points, especially with West Brom, who are generally quite strong at home. I'm actually going to go for a draw. And I'm actually going to go for a 0-0 draw here. I've not predicted many 0-0 draws this season, but I think we could see one here. West Brom struggling for goals. Oxford, their away form isn't necessarily the best at the moment, so I'm going to go for a non-scoring draw. Let me know what you think in the comments. And finally, we end my predictions with Wrexham and Charlton, 2 newly promoted teams from League One going head-to-head. And wow, very exciting to see the outcome here. Now, Wrexham were involved in a very unmemorable game against, of course, Portsmouth. And they went the back foot. They were quite lucky, actually, to hold on for the draw. A good defensive performance to keep the likes of Josh Murphy out. He was really searching for something in that game. Charlton, I mean, an unbelievable season. They're in the top 6, Charlton. I mean, some would have backed Charlton to survive based on their transfer business. I did, but I don't think any put them in top 6 currently. Nathan Jones is working miracles at this club, and I'm really excited to see what sort of ceiling they could hit and whether they're going to reevaluate, if that's the correct word, in terms of their expectations. So I'm excited to see where this goes, but this is tough. Wrexham won their last home game pretty emphatically against Coventry, and when things are on it for Wrexham, they could be unstoppable. But Charlton have done really well to make things difficult for the opposition and to stay in the game. They haven't been blown away by many teams as such. Wrexham could easily do that with the firepower they showed last home game against Coventry. But as a prediction, I'm going to go for a draw. 1-1 draw. It's tough. I feel like once I could maybe get the win, but I don't know which way it'll go. Let's go for a draw, 1-1. I respect both teams of what they're doing at the moment, and I think they'll therefore cancel each other out. Let me know what you think in the comments. And just like that, guys, my Week 15 score predictions is done, and the third wave stage of the championship has officially been concluded. We are a third of the way through the season, unbelievably. Let me know of your current thoughts of the championship season in the comments down below, and please also comment your score predictions too, as that will allow you to score more points for the Lexalexus Football Prediction League. But I guess that wraps it up. Now it's time to edit this. If you guys enjoyed, please like, subscribe, share, and doing all of that is free to do. It takes a couple of seconds to do, and it really tremendously helps the growth of this channel, and it's truly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary. If you saw any of this video, as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.